Okay, well, good morning. Glad to see so many people involved today. Lots of enthusiasm. My goal is to go ahead and give a brief overview of the program. I'm sure I won't be able to cover everything, so feel free to contact me after the webinar to get any additional information. So what is Urban FIA? Basically speaking, it's a strategic level annualized inventory across all urban areas across the country. It's designed to function on both public and private properties. Basically, we take all the I-tree methodologies and combine them with both the infrastructure and methodologies of the core FIA program in order to complete a comprehensive inventory of all forests within urban areas across the entire nation. It's important to keep in mind that it's not just a snapshot in time of how the urban forests look today. It's a continuous inventory measuring panels of plots on an annual basis, so the data is constantly being refreshed. Overall, our goal is to annually monitor all the forests within census-defined urban areas across the entire country, with a special emphasis on some of our larger cities with a population over 200,000. So why do Urban FIA? Well, approximately 80% of our population lives in urban areas, and it's a pretty big chunk of ground, approximately 68 million acres, similar to the size of Colorado. We project that by the year 2060, it'll be even the size of Texas, a pretty big chunk of ground currently not covered by a strategic monitoring program. In addition, the 2014 Farm Bill has directed us to. A brief history about the core FIA program. Our main goal was renewable resources of forests and rangeland. We've been doing this since the late 20s, early 30s with a focus on both forests and rangeland. So we got pretty good at it. We became known as the nation's forest census. If there was a tree out there within FIA-defined forest, we sampled it. But some trees did fall through the gaps. Those trees in areas less than an acre in size or less than 120 feet in width, and even those trees growing in non-forest land uses. So why spend the time to fill this gap? Well, all trees sequester carbon, filter water, provide biomass. Some even conserve energy. So the bottom line is we benefit from all trees, whether they're growing in a rural environment or an urban setting. This is a real big change in perspective for us. In the past, with a strong focus on forest land, or even a focus on public trees within public street tree inventories, moving away from that to a all-of-edge approach across all urban lands. We'll use the same FIA grid system, the same grid system we use to collect our core plots. We'll also use that within our urban FIA plots. That's one plot for every 6,000 acres. And where the focus is on forest land in the core program, in the urban program, we're looking at census-defined urban areas. So within census-defined urban areas, shown here in the blue outline, we'll measure one plot for every 6,000 acres. The U.S. Census defines urban areas as a population density of greater than 500 per square mile, associated with towns and cities with a population over 2,500. So I think we can all agree that all trees benefit us in one way or the other, but how do we go ahead and quantify such benefits? Well, we turn to Dave Nowak's shop out of Syracuse, New York. Their I-tree models provide just that, a way to quantify the environmental services that trees do provide us. Here's some data from the most recent Chicago region report showing an energy savings of $44 million and pollution removal worth $137 million. I mean, pretty neat facts to help sell the program and help sell the value trees really provide for all of us. From a national perspective, here's a picture of what our core sample looks like. Like I said, we'll mention all urban areas, all urban clusters throughout the entire country, one plot for every 6,000 acres. Here's a big picture view of that across the entire nation. In addition to this, we're also looking at installing an additional 200 plots within the city limits of our 100 most popular cities, so cities with a population over 200,000. So how do we take on such a task? Build a program from the ground up, basically just one city at a time. Once we identify a target city or a hub city, we geographically define that with the census definition of a core-based statistical area, CBSA. And all this really is including the counties surrounding a hub city based on commuting patterns. This kind of creates the basic building block of the program at this point, at least in terms of the implementation of the program. So here's the Baltimore, Maryland study area. The counties associated with the CBSA are outlined in yellow, and then the urban areas are shown in blue, and the city center is shown in red. The blue areas was the population level of over 500 per square mile. In those areas, we'll put in one plot for every 6,000. And within the city center, city limits, we'll go ahead and further intensify to 200 samples. That way we can get some strategic level citywide data. So looking at it from a national perspective, in this map we see here the core hub cities shown in red. They're associated CBSA counties in tan, and inside those associated counties we see the blue area, the urban areas. Those are the building blocks of the program. There's still some blue areas scattered around the rest of the country. Eventually, as funding increases, we'll be able to put samples in those urban areas also. So notice there's some states, like in the Upper Plains or even up in New England, you don't see any target cities identified. At this point, that's just because none of them met our definition of population level of 200,000 or greater. Our plan is to work with each of the state foresters to ensure that each state does have one city to represent themselves in terms of the urban inventory. For example, we just talked to Steve Sinclair's shop up in Vermont, who identified Burlington, Vermont to be our study area. And in fact, we plan to start inventory work there next summer. So what does an urban FIA plot look like on the ground? Here you see the 4-point cluster that most of you are used to within our traditional core survey. 4 subplots, each separated by about 120 feet. Well, our urban sample was condensed down to a single 48-foot radius subplot. The main goal for doing something like this, of shrinking our footprint like this, was mainly cost. We found in the most recent 2012 survey in Wisconsin that about half our time was spent talking to landowners, the other half actually taking a look at trees. We figured we'd do a big cost savings in terms of talking to fewer landowners by shrinking the footprint of the overall plot. It's still a 6-acre, just like in the core program. It's just a different footprint. So here's our footprint of 48-foot fixed radius sample. Here we measure all trees 5 inches or greater. In addition, we've chosen to subsample both seedlings and saplings. We'll grab them on each of the 4 microplots. Each microplot is a 6.8-foot radius, offset 12 foot from plot center. As far as what do we collect in our urban FIA plot, our goal is a tree is a tree is a tree, whether it's grown out in the woods, downtown, or someplace out in the middle of Nebraska. We'll collect the same suite of variables at all trees that we encounter. So from the core program, we'll bring over all the core program variables, things like crown class, crown ratio, damages, bowl borers, conks, cankers, all that kind of stuff still collected, in addition to things like tree grade and tree class. So they're still able to report on merchantability and volume estimates. In addition, on the iTree side of things, we'll bring all the basic Eco5 variables over to the program, and then we will still be able to report on all the basic charts and tables that Dave Nowak's Ecosystem Services has provided in the past. So all that will still be available in the core FIA in the urban FIA program. We've also added on items like taking track of riparian trees, maintained area trees, planted trees, street trees, and even building energy trees. So once all the data is collected in the field, edited in the field, we'll move it into the FIA processing system. From there, we'll send it out to a public-facing data mart. The data mart will be able to provide all that data to each and every one of you, as well as feed annual and 5-year reporting. It'll also feed a newly developed urban FIA app developed in cooperation with the Texas Forest Service. So that's how we'll get the data out to you guys. Currently, the processing system consists of a newly created FIA urban database, and that's linked up with Dave Nowak's Eco5 database. We're currently working with Dave Nowak's unit along with a cooperative agreement with the Davy Tree Company to combine both those processing systems. So it's been great news, fantastic news. We got all of our work done in Austin, Texas last year, and just maybe 13, 14 months after the last plot was completed last year, we hope to get our first report, the Urban Forest Boston, out sometime later on this fall. In addition, all that data will also be available in another month or 2 within our Urban FIA data mart. So all that raw data will be available to all you folks too. In addition to just Urban FIA plots, we're also incorporated the program into the core FIA's Timber Park Outputs program. And we've added urban-related questions to their annual mill surveys to get the word out about how urban wood is being used. I never really knew it before, but talking to Dick and Amy from Wisconsin, they were saying that about a third of their wood waste between Madison and Milwaukee is actually sold as traditional forest products. In addition to Urban FIA being added to the TPO studies, it's also being added to the National Woodland Owners Survey, in the newly created Urban Forest Owners Survey, the UFO survey. I believe they sent their questionnaire out for approval. I think they plan to get the questions back, I think sometime in 8 to 10 months to get approval to send out the questionnaires within 8 to 10 months. So we started out in 2014 in Baltimore and Austin, Texas. Made great strides this past field season, moving into St. Louis, Madison, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Providence, and also Houston, Texas. And looking forward towards 2016, still lots of conversations happening out there, but I think we got St. Louis, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, Burlington, Vermont, Cleveland, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois is locked in for field work next season, and we're also currently talking to folks in Buffalo and Pittsburgh too, in terms of moving into 2016. How do we get here? Where are we going next year? I really have no clue at all what the 2016 budget will look like. And we wouldn't be where we are today without plenty of enthusiastic cooperators that they're saving us left and right. And those cooperators have chosen different ways of getting the work done. Looking down at the model down in Texas, they're using state crews, the same state crews that collect the core FIA data. They're collecting the urban FIA data. Top-notch group of folks, really good at what they do, not much to get them into urban FIA, not much extra learning curve there at all. In Rhode Island, we're taking an approach of mixing the expertise provided by the state of Rhode Island by having one of their urban foresters work with one of our federal foresters up that way. In Missouri, we're working with the state forester. She's going to be sending some money our direction, and then we'll go ahead and contract out the work in Missouri ourselves. Wisconsin's chosen to contract out their own work. Once again, they're using a nonprofit, Wisconsin Lumberjack RC&D, similar to the Texas model. Those are the same folks that collect the core data. So it's, again, an easy transition from the core data into the Urban FIA program. In Baltimore, Maryland, we've got some federal field staff nearby, so we've chosen to take care of Baltimore with federal staff at this point. So in addition to how we get the work done in each state, some of the states have chosen to go above and beyond our basic program. The state of Texas has chosen to shrink their 10-year cycles worth of plots into a single year in both Austin and in Houston. In Rhode Island, they intensified the sample across the board to a 2x level, twice as many plots. In Missouri, Lisa was talking about shrinking the 7-year cycle, buying that down into a 3-year cycle, get all the plots done in 3 years, in addition to adding a non-target city, Springfield, Missouri. In Wisconsin, both Madison and Milwaukee will remain on a 7-year cycle. They've chosen to increase a 5x survey across all urban areas within the entire state. So instead of one plot for about every 6,000 acres, they're looking at a one plot for every 1,100 acres or so across all areas within the state of Wisconsin. So pretty exciting, lots of different models, just trying to make it work with as much cooperation as we can get from folks that are willing to work with us. So just kind of in summary, some high points of the program. We're on both public and private property. By getting that 200 plots within the city limits, we're able to provide strategic city-level data. It's not a one-time snapshot. We're looking at a continuous monitoring system. And because we are collecting plots, not only in the downtown areas, but across the whole urban defined areas across the country, we're able to analyze a suite of variables across the entire urban to rural gradient across the entire country. All of our data will be made available to the public through our public-facing data mart, and all of our data collections backed up by a solid certification and quality control program. Well, and I know it's a lot to say in 14 minutes. Any additional questions or concerns, please feel free to first check out our website. If you can't find the answers there, by all means, please send me an email. And like I mentioned, we couldn't be here without enthusiastic cooperators, and I thank all of you that have chipped in the past, and I hope to see a lot more of you in the future. If you happen to be a future willing and able partner or cooperator looking to get your hub city involved, please call one of our regional FIA program managers. Thank you much.